Welcome, everyone, to the Petravita Podcast. And today we have a special guest, which is great that you dropped in, because otherwise everyone here is already used to me just being me talking like 4 or 5 nights a week on this stream. So it's fantastic to have someone else around. Tianda, tell us a little bit about the background. Hit us with the 60-second origin story of you as a person, and we'll get to you as an artist in a bit.
Cool. Well, my name's Tianda. Most people call me T because that's a hard name for a lot of people. I was born in Medicine Hat, Alberta, but I've lived kind of all over Canada. I've moved around a lot. I spent most of my formative years growing up in a village in northern BC, 1,500 people, dial-up speed internet, middle of nowhere in the forest. And that's sort of where I learned to lock myself away, play guitar, piano, write songs. Started writing songs in grade 2, just in a little diary, and then kind of never stopped. When I was 15, I ended up auditioning for a Canadian reality TV show. I won that show, got to work with a major label. And then 10 years later, here I am writing my own songs, producing my own music, and kind of existing as an indie artist. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And how old are you?
I'm 27.
27. So you've had a lot going on. I know I've watched your TikToks, and it's at Tianda Land, right?
Tianda Land, yes.
Yeah. So you guys feel free to follow there, because you've posted some really nice stories about your background and your experience working with that label, how things worked out or didn't, what you decided to do from there. Tell us, I think, for people that I would have on the podcast, it's probably uncommon for someone to start out with, or to even have in their bio that they've worked with a major label at this point. What was that like for you? I know a little bit about this, but for people listening, and I think more importantly, why are you not doing that now, or why does your approach to music look very different right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really funny story. That's why I post about it all the time, because it's really just quite ridiculous. But essentially what happened is, so I went on this TV show in Canada. For people who aren't from Canada, it was the network is called YTV. And they partnered with Universal Records to make this reality TV competition. And if you won the show, you got to continue releasing music with Universal. You got to do a music video open for some of their artists. I got to share the stage with Justin Bieber, which was me peaking at 15. And it was all super cool. And of course I won, and I was like, oh my God, 15-year-old me, I'm a star. I've made it. This is it. It's all upward from here. So I get into the studio to start songwriting these new songs with Universal. And what they told me right away was, your songwriting is too deep for your audience. I don't know how they knew who my audience was, but they said, your songwriting is too deep for your audience. People aren't going to get it. So we're going to bring in songwriters to essentially help you, AKA kind of do it for you. So I essentially released 3 kids bops after that, and a music video that was it's still on. I still have a Vivo account, and you can still watch it. It's basically a big meme. I Rebecca Blacked myself, essentially. Got bullied on the internet for months and months and months after, because it wasn't good. Even at 15, I knew it wasn't good.
Sorry to interrupt you. Scoos in the chat has come on me, man. Can you remind me to find a clip of this before I upload the YouTube version, so we can have a little bit of that music video in? Thank you.
It's really good. I keep trying to post it on TikTok, but Universal won't let me, which is so unfortunate. If you're going to make a meme of me, at least let me capitalize on it, Yeah. But anyways, so it didn't work out. The songs flopped. The label wasn't interested in working with me. But essentially what happened is they really messed with my head, because at the time that I was working with Universal, it was right at that time when Taylor Swift was starting to blow up. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Canadian TV networks, there was a time when this company called Chorus Entertainment owned both YTV and CMT, which was the country music channel. So they thought, okay, we have this 15-year-old singer-songwriter. Instead of marketing her as Tianda, let's try to market her as Taylor Swift, so we can get her on both of these TV networks that we own. And I had never a day in my life wanted to write country music before I worked with that label. I wanted to be an Avril Lavigne, against the whole industry mainstream. But I was so messed up in my head. I was like, okay, I'm not good enough. I have to be this. So after I parted ways with the label, I started a country band. And I spent 4 years of my life in that country band, you know, releasing a whole album, playing tons of shows across Western Canada.
And there was no other
Just
entity, other label that was making you do that at that point. It
no,
was just what
no,
you
it
thought
was
you
just
needed to
me.
do.
I thought I had to be somebody that I wasn't. And then after 4 years, I just had this epiphany and I was like, damn it. Like that was 4 years. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I got really, you know, like overwhelmed. And I was like, you know, maybe music just isn't for me. And I actually quit for a few years and I deleted all my social media. I vanished from the internet. That's why people think I just started making music because I just reappeared last year. I vanished. I took a few years to just not really socialize and just write songs in my basement and see what I actually wanted to sound like, and eventually taught myself how to produce because I was like, I will never be in a situation again where someone's telling me what I need to be or sound like. Like I just need full control of this. And that brings us to now where I'm, you know, writing and recording and producing and releasing my music on my own, and much happier for it.
Yeah. And you had well, I'm gonna get to actually some of your music you've released in a little bit, but I think this is an interesting discussion because your experience is absolutely the opposite of how a lot of people aspiring to do anything music stumble into things. Almost everyone is starting for a very long time and usually forever on their own, independent, and maybe later they are falling into something with a label if they have something that does well. But also there's a lot of issues with artists feeling like as soon as another organization convinces them that they're kind of believed in or will be supported in some way, that they've made it, and they can be disappointed or taken advantage of. Do you, obviously there were some negative things about that experience and you having to sort through it afterward and figuring it out. Do you think there's I mean, what are some lessons that you took away from that maybe kind of gave you a better perspective later on? Because I'm guessing you have some things you will avoid and have avoided since then.
I mean, the number one thing that really shook me is when I started to do my research. You know, like when I grew up, I always thought like, you know, get good at singing, get signed, let a major label sort of make your dreams come true. What they don't tell you is that the success rate of a major label artist is around 2.8%. So what that means is around 2.8% of artists make enough money that they can pay their advance back and not get dropped by their label.
And that's
but
of
you
artists,
don't hear
2.8% of artists already signed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about the other 90 plus something percent that
Right.
that get signed and still don't make it. You know, you only hear about the people like Billie Eilish who do pop off. And so the perception of how the industry works and how you need to be successful is very distorted. And I think like if I could, I remember being 15 years old and my dad looking at me and being like, Tianda, like you don't need a label. You don't need any of these people. He set me up a studio. I had Wave Lab when I was 15. I had all the instruments I needed. And still I was like, no, I need people to do it for me because that's what I was taught. And it took me a decade to realize that like I should have listened to my dad, you know? And so when people look at what they want their career path to be, what they need to understand is that there are so many more paths than just get signed and pop off. And potentially even that might not be the best path for you. Like what I've come to understand now is that unless you're making a shit ton of money on your own as an indie artist, any record contract that a label brings to you, it's not going to be in your favor. It's going to be in their favor. And it's just like,
you
for
don't
me
have any leverage
personally,
in that situation.
Exactly. For me personally, like I don't want to sign up with any company when I don't have any leverage. Like it's just you're asking to kind of be mistreated, and that's not to say that all labels are like that, but I think for the majority of artists who are indies, it's something that you need to be really cautious of.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting too with the, what was it, 2.6, 2.8% you mentioned? 2.8. One thing to think about too is, like you say, that perception is quite distorted because you have a thing when you, especially if you're just getting into music or young or at all kinds of phases, it's really easy to have the perception that once you get signed, you are in a stable position, or whether you view it as real success, big, you're going to blow up, or whether you just view as, oh, I'm not on the indie grind and that stress level or whatever that journey might look for someone anymore. Whereas they probably would think of it very differently if that was more cemented, that you have 97.2% of artists fail at this stage that you view as already being successful. However, I think it's also great that the amount we have to rely on being that 2.8% is less these days with the tools available to us. And we, for those of you who don't know, I think we originally were connected through Adam Ambrose, who's been on the podcast as well, and who I did a song with. And and he's had all kinds of things go on TikTok as well recently. And we're in a group chat, all of us and quite a few other people. And sorry, I don't have the chat bot working there, Scoos, so that you can use the commands, because I didn't want to go through and individually mute all the sound commands during stream. So I'll have the chat bot so you can use commands up later when we're done. But we're in a chat with where we kind of talk through things and maybe strategize or share ideas and stuff like that. And that's definitely been that's, to me, it's I don't know, it's incredible, like the tools that are available right now, and it makes you have to be even more multifaceted, but I don't know, it's a wonderful thing as well. And you share a lot of good advice as well, which I appreciate. I see a lot of the kind of mindset that I have reflected in things that you post on your Instagram story, on TikTok as well. Something interesting that I've talked about quite a bit, and I saw you making things about offering opportunities, or to grab opportunities, but offering to do certain things for free when you reach out to work with people. And of course, there are always the comments, almost 100% of the time, from people that are not in whatever industry you're talking about. So it is not someone trying to be successful in music telling you that that's not the way to do music. It's someone who's a listener or a fan. What do you think about that pushback, or how would you help people understand, I don't know, the significance or how big of a role for artists like us that not letting money lead can be, how that can be a benefit at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea, like, I don't want to work for free. Like, nobody wants to work for free, right? And the way that you approach those interactions needs to vary based on who you're interacting with and what the benefits are. And I get a lot of requests every day of people sliding in my inbox asking me to do things for free. And I say no, because I can't do every single thing that people ask me to do for free. Yeah. But there are a lot of times when doing things for free makes sense. And particularly if you're a new artist or a new producer and you don't have connections, you don't have a manager, you don't have a label, you don't have anyone to work with, and you're looking for people to work with, and you're looking for opportunities. If you're sliding into people's DMs saying, hey, do you want to hire me for $400? Hey, do you want to buy my beats? Right. What do you think they're doing with that DM? Like, they're not even opening it. It's going straight to general. They're deleting it. They're not looking at it. So by demanding money in the first message or asking for something in the first message, all you've done is ensure that that person's not going to connect with you. So for me personally, I mean, at the beginning of last year, I had no monthly listeners, literally zero. I had no TikTok. I had 1,000 followers on Instagram. I had no Facebook. I was essentially nobody. And like, in the grand scheme of things, I basically still am, but the growth has been incredible. And basically at the beginning of the year, I would ask producers to work with me and they would say no. Like, every single one would, not interested. You don't have the numbers. You don't have a fan base. Like, why would I work with you, kind of thing. And I was like, fair enough. Like, that makes total sense. So what I did instead was I sort of flipped the script and I really just started offering, and I said, hey guys, I'm going to do this thing called Loop Challenge. Right. If you're a new producer and you want free vocals and free songwriting, send me your instrumentals, and every Friday I will write and post as many songs as I can, because I want to show off your work. I want to help other artists find you. I want to help build your network. And I ended up writing over 80 songs in a year with other producers I'd never met before.
Right.
And now my inbox is so flooded with producers trying to work with me and make my songs that I have to decline most of the requests because I don't have enough songs
Yep.
to give to these people. And these aren't just, you know, random producers with 20 people on BeatStars. These are like, I've had producers with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of monthly listeners who I would have never been able to contact and work with, literally reaching out, asking what they can do for me. And it really is just because I decided, fuck it, for a year, I'm just going to give as much as I can and hope and let karma return the favor eventually. And that mindset is what helped me get, you know, 26,000 fans in the course of the year on TikTok, 4,000 more on Instagram, and this demand now of people actually wanting to work with me and me not having to ask anymore. And that's really just the key to everything. Social media is about what you give, not what you get.
I think, it's very smart, and karma is, I think, one thing that people don't realize too is the concept of karma is a practical one. In business and especially in artistic pursuits. And it's, we talked about leverage earlier, and by doing something like this where you give so much without any kind of immediate ask, you build that kind of leverage for yourself, even unintentionally, as you grow your own thing simply by being someone who offers. In the live stream chat, there's a discussion right now about major labels and saying, okay, if the majors are wrong 97.2% of the time, then an artist will pop off something's wrong on there and probably systematic. And one thing I wanted to say is that I had a good tie-in that I think is good for people to think about. When I started, when I first moved to Stockholm about 5 years ago, I was working in startups. Startups are constantly chasing rounds of funding. They're pivoting and making new products all the time. And there is a very, very direct parallel, if you've ever been in that world, between investors and major labels, because that is what labels are, and artists are the product or the fledgling company a lot of times coming to them for some sort of backing. And the reason why that fail rate may be described as systematic, but at least it's not a problem in the eyes of the label, is that this is exactly what investors do with young companies, is that they will have a fund that puts that puts money into a huge portfolio of different companies, and they don't really care about the 95% of them that fail. They want a stake in one of them that becomes a large, usually technology player, and it will dwarf any losses from all the others. And the reason they're able to do that, which is also how labels behave, the reason they're able to do that as well is that they are only really investing their money, not their time. And there are a lot of people who are very smart who do this investing, and some of those companies that fail could probably be helped by actually having mentorship or real participation from the minds that are investing in them. But labels, by the same token, often are doing the same thing. They're not going to put the time into helping every artist solve whatever problems are there with maybe their perceived marketability. That's too resource intensive for them compared to simply giving in advance and writing off the losses when something doesn't work out and going for that one person whose percentage will cover things that didn't work out. So that very much, much like in investing, that's very much by design and at the very least acceptable in a label world.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of the big issues is that once you sign on to a major label, you basically, and this is, I'm generalizing, I'm talking about the traditional like 360 deals or like artist development deals, things like that. I'm not talking about like the distribution deals or song by song deals that people sign, because those are actually great and we can get into those after. But Traditional record labels, basically what happens is they'll give you some sort of advance, or they'll decide how to spend the money. And if you're an artist and you go to the bank and you get a $15,000 loan and you decide, okay, I'm going to put, $4,000 into merch, I'm going to turn that into $15,000 profit. I'm going to then do a coffee shop tour. I'll make this much money, whatever. You have a lot of control over how much you're spending and how much you're getting back. If you sign on with a major label, they get to decide what they spend the money on. So if they want to spend $15,000 on a stupid ass release party that doesn't make any money but makes the label look really hype, you have no control over that, and they've just spent like the money that they could have invested on you into something that didn't even actually benefit you. And like you mentioned, because major labels have artists like Ariana Grande and Billie Eilish, they don't care if someone like me fails. Like, if I'm making money for them, they care, and they'll start paying attention and giving you more money. But if you're not generating a lot of money for a label, you can't expect to be their top priority. And so, as an indie, one thing's for sure, you're going to be your top priority, because there's no one else to take care of it. But with a major label, you have to understand that you're still basically on your own. You just have a few more maybe connections or a bit more money, and that you wouldn't have had before. And I think what's really important is, don't listen to this and think that, every major record label is bullshit and I never want to work with them, because that's not true. I'm in fact talking to Sony right now, not saying that anything is going to come out of that, but it's not like I've written them off completely and I'm not interested. It's just, if you're an indie artist, understand that if you do get signed by a major, number one, like, you're still going to have to do all the work. And if you're not prepared to do that when you get signed, you can't expect to be successful. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that, because of the lack of control, sometimes you can get in a situation where you're stuck because of the situation your label's in. I have friends who are signed to major labels who weren't able to actually do anything last year because as soon as COVID happened, the label didn't have any money to fund their projects. So even though they finally got the opportunity that they thought was going to change their life, they actually weren't able to grow that much because they were relying on this label who then wasn't able to deliver because of something that was completely out of their control. And they deserved all the help and the funding and the support, and they did everything right. And it was just a matter of like, this company doesn't have the money, therefore you're screwed by default. And that's just the unfortunate reality of not having control of your career. So I think, like, don't look at them as a non-option. They're definitely an option, and they can definitely be a good option. You just have to be very smart, and you still have to understand that you'll still be working just as hard, if not harder, once you get signed.
For someone in your situation now, or maybe over the next couple of years, you mentioned a moment ago, rather than, or perhaps instead of, we talk about a 360 deal, which for people maybe don't know, 360 degrees basically being all-encompassing, a deal where your label is involved in and also thus taking a cut of any monetization related to you as an artist or a brand. What kind of maybe alternatives to that or assistance from a label might you be interested in going forward if you do go that direction?
Yeah. So my game plan and my ideal state, right now I'm in a position where I'm able to write, record, and produce my own music. So for the most part, I can own my masters, which means every time my song gets played, I get 90 to 100% of the profit. And I want to maintain that. And the only way you can maintain that is by not signing your rights away when you sign with a label on a traditional deal. What you can do, though, is if a label approaches you, you can say, well, I don't want to sign with you for a development deal or a 360 deal, but a publishing deal is essentially where they'll take a smaller cut and essentially just take the music you've already made and distribute it for you. So there are labels, for example, who for 10% rather than like 60 to 100%, they'll take your songs and they'll make sure that they land in the hands of every Spotify playlist, Apple playlist, and Amazon playlist curator. So they essentially leverage their network and their connections, but they don't do any of the funding up front, and they don't own any of it beyond a very small portion. And it can still be a very beneficial relationship because they're taking a way smaller cut and they're getting you hundreds of thousands more plays than you would have got on your own. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the future, is if I can find a label that is willing to just take me as I am, not get too involved with the music production, but be willing to distribute, or potentially a label who will take a very small cut, but will get me into maybe higher profile songwriting sessions and opportunities like that. I would be interested in that. but I'm not interested in giving anyone a large percentage of my master recordings, because I think in this day and age, like, it is so absolutely crucial to the indie artist to own their master. So I think a publishing deal is the way to go nowadays, at least for me.
For anyone wondering as well, back in, I want to say 2012 onward, so coming from Seattle, grew up going to Macklemore shows before he got really big. And he kind of famously, if you were involved in that Northwest music scene, was kind of an indie artist, was never signed, and pushed that. And one of the things he was able to do with his debut album is he did exactly that. He already had a large fan base, but and that was grown independently. And then exactly as you're talking about, looked to labels when he already had all this hype and stuff behind him, so he knew there would be interest, and basically went to a couple of labels looking for publishing deals on that album, and that helped exponentially increase the exposure of it without tying the rest of his artistic career into anything. So it's definitely something that is done at all kinds of levels.
And you can do it with like an EP, you can do it with an album, even if you're an artist who, like, maybe not every song you write is like a radio hit, but you write one song and you're like, this is it, this is the one. You can even sign a record deal for just one song, and a label will help you get that one song on the radio or get that one song on playlist. And that's still a very beneficial relationship where the artist doesn't lose too much but has a lot to gain, and the label doesn't have to invest that much but also has a lot to gain, right? So like if you're a new artist, it can be very beneficial to just I don't actually advocate reaching out to record labels, but if you absolutely feel like you must do it, reaching out about a single deal or an EP deal might be a way better way to go than just being like, hey, will you sign me? You know, because I think those deals are sort of going to become extinct soon anyways.
Yeah. And this is probably a good time for me to mention to respect your time. I'm the type of person, I love doing this. I love talking about it. It's super interesting, so I could sit here forever. Usually I mention to do this like 30 to 60 minutes or so, but if at any point you've got things to do, I know you kind of jumped into this last minute, just let me know. No stress. Otherwise,
I'm easy.
I'll throw things your way for a bit. Awesome. You have been doing some challenges since coming back. You mentioned your Friday loop challenge. Maybe go into that a little bit more. And also, I know, was it 6 singles you released last year? Or there was 8. Why did you release, I would say, 8? And tell us about how you kind of decided on your rate of output for that debut year coming back and starting to release things again.
Yeah. So Loop Challenge is my favorite thing that I think ever done, where basically I opened it up on the internet. I said, anyone who wants to send me any music at all, I don't care how good you are. I don't care how much clout you have. I don't care how many followers you have. If you have 1 million, if you have 2, send me your sauce. I don't care if it's a loop. I don't care if it's a beat. I don't care if it's a saxophone solo. Like, send me anything. And I went through the beats, and any genre is welcome. I don't care what it is. And I basically wrote as many songs as I could. And every week I would post as many songs as I could and let my fans kind of vote on which ones they liked the most. And after the course of the year, I ended up with 80 songs to choose from. And now I'm working on finishing the top 10 of them to put them on a Loop Challenge EP. And what's really cool is that it was this huge collaborative project where, like, I got to work with some producers who had hundreds of thousands of followers, and I got to work with some producers who had no followers and no music out. And when I release this EP, not only is it going to help, me by getting my songs out there, but I get to put on all these artists who maybe, or all these producers rather, who maybe couldn't afford to get a song professionally mixed, mastered, and released, or who couldn't find an artist to work with. And I get to be their first release, and I get to be that person who got their name out there. And, like, to me, that's just such a full circle moment, because I've been so blessed with people helping me that, like, I just think it's really special. Like, some of the people on the record are 17 years old and they've never released a song before or even like finished one. So it's, like, really incredible that I get to kind of help them into that world and just, like, give back in some way. So I'm super excited about it. Loop Challenge is on pause right now as I finish the record, but I'm probably going to be starting it up again next month. So yeah, that's Loop Challenge in a
How
nutshell.
many on average did you try to get through writing something for as many as you could? How many? I know different weeks are busier, but how many on average did you get through on a Friday when you would have a bunch of stuff come in, and how many did you try and do?
Usually I'd write 5 to 10 songs
Yeah,
every Friday.
yeah.
And I wouldn't always post them all because they didn't all turn out great, but
Mm-hmm.
typically I can finish like 5 to 6 for sure that I feel good about.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been writing songs since I was, in grade 2, whatever age that was. So to me, it's just like second nature. It's like talking. Like I could write 20 if I had the time. Um, but yeah, I think that's why my output is so high. I'm just so used to doing it now.
Yep. I did when I first started on Twitch, and then I took a pause and came back. But a couple of years ago, when I first started dabbling here, I started with this like demo a day thing, and I was doing it like 5 days a week, and so it was really over the course of like a year and a half. But there's like 200 and I don't know 80, 270 something songs just from that, and sometimes it was tedious, sometimes it was really fun. But one thing for sure, I am real fucking fast to write a verse now, especially compared to like starting out. And just like anything, practice, practice, practice. Yeah, it's incredible how much quicker and more dexterous you can get with coming up with narratives and finding a new story to tell, or getting inspired by a certain sound to start writing lyrics, or extra parts to the music when you put in that time. So I think that type of thing is a really valuable experiment. I know a lot of people who are they maybe want to start out in music, or they've been involved in it privately for a long time, and they're so perfectionist at a point
Mm-hmm.
where no one cares either way. You have nobody listening or judging, and people are so afraid of putting something out that they put nothing out. They don't ever really finish anything. And I would
Yes.
love if more people did this many songs every week, or demo every Friday, and just put them out on SoundCloud, or whatever. You don't have to put everything on Spotify and think this is like the most polished thing that represents you. But if you have the confidence to do that as well, so you have something out, like you can go and take things down later if you really want. But yeah, I wish more people would push themselves to experiment in that way, because that is a creative muscle that you really build up by doing things like that.
Funny because like so many of my friends come to me and they're like, I don't know how you write lyrics that fast. I could never do that. I can never think of enough ideas. And I'm like, no, like you are lying to yourself, because if I sat down and had a conversation with you, you could talk all day. You could talk for a week straight. You could just keep
Right.
talking. So don't tell me the words aren't in your head, because I know the words are in your head. It's
Yeah.
just that you are censoring yourself, and that's why
Mhm.
you can't write 5 songs in a day, because you're telling yourself this isn't good enough. I can't think of ideas. I can't possibly release this. If
Mhm.
you can just get over your need to be perfect and your instinct to censor yourself and think that you're not good enough, you'll be amazed at how many more ideas you get. And like
Right.
dude, someone was asking me yesterday, like, how do you only release gold? And I was like, dude, every time I release a song,
Yeah.
I feel like I just sent a risky text message and I want to throw my phone out the window.
Right.
But by making myself do it anyways, that's how you become confident. Like the confidence doesn't come first. You need to put the song out, realize that nobody gives a shit or even notices the imperfections in it.
Mhm.
And once you do that enough times, you just become like unfuckwithable. Like
Yeah.
for me personally, there's also this level of like, I embarrass myself on national TV. Like no song I ever release is going to be worse than that. So like I may as well just release everything at this point and see what happens. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the average artist nowadays, it takes 26 song releases to break. So
Mhm.
like you got to be writing. You got to be
Yeah.
writing a lot and be fearless about it, because people are literally waiting to support other people. They're not like most people on the internet aren't sitting around waiting to make fun of artists, right? Most people are nice. Most people are supportive.
Yeah.
And if you write a song that means something to you, it probably will mean something to somebody else too. But you'll never know that for sure if you leave them to collect dust on your hard drive.
Mhm.
So that's my rants of the day about that.
I had a photography. I did a lot of like black and white print photography back in high school. I loved doing that. We got to develop your own both film and then also making prints and stuff. And I remember, our teacher talking about the cutting room floor and later translating that to music and editing and different things. But basically the concept of nobody knows what ended up on the editing room floor. And so you may agonize over these decisions and no one will ever even have an inkling that there was an alternative. So you don't have to worry about it from the perspective of what someone else may have liked better or may not have liked. It's the same thing performing. I think it's amazing, especially with rap where there's a lot of words. You can be in a live show and you feel like you really flubbed a lyric and did something wrong. I promise you, no one has any idea. They half the time it's so hard to hear things at live shows and stuff perfectly. And I've had things where I was like, oh man, I really wanted to nail that line and nobody knows what you're talking about even. Yeah, that happens in a lot more context than we think.
And it's way more important than it's your energy. It's
Yes.
I've played over 400 shows in the past 3 years, mostly before COVID. And I have had shows where I felt like I did terrible, but because I did terrible with enthusiasm, people still loved it.
Yeah,
and
true.
it's just all, it's emotion and energy. And if you can just make people feel what you're feeling, you've done it. It doesn't matter if your voice is out of tune. It doesn't matter if your production isn't the best. It doesn't matter if your mix is shit. There are songs where the mix is shit that blow up overnight. And it's none of that matters. It's just energy, emotion. If I can transmute what I'm feeling to me and get it into your, your feelings, I've accomplished my goal with that song and I'm releasing it, period. Yeah. No one can tell me there's any other criteria I need to meet.
Awesome. And also, I put a little stream. Twitch has a thing when you're on the creator dashboard, so I can see a little different view of the stream. And I add these stream markers when something comes up that I want to highlight or remember. I put one in so I remember that the title of this episode should be "Unfuckwithable" because that's just a good word.
That's just
you
the
dropped
motto
in
these
there.
days.
Yeah, that is the motto.
I need to make merch that says "Unfuckwithable" on it because that's honestly I feel like it's really funny. A lot of artists come to me for advice and stuff, and
Twitch
I look
chat,
at my
can
accounts.
You guys get my merch printed quicker? So get me let me steal the unfuck. I'm just gonna. Yeah, go ahead.
I look at my accounts and I'm like, I don't really get why people ask me for advice. I'm not that big, and then they're always telling me it's just your confidence, and I'm like, it's because I've been through probably the worst. I've been through getting bullied. I've been through being made fun of. It's not going to get worse from here. And if you just put yourself out there and get through the hard shit and get through the trolls and get through all the negativity, you really do come out the other side stronger. And once you realize that no amount of negativity can actually impact you unless you let it, you truly do become unfuckwithable. So that's just what I'm going with this year. Anyone tells me shit on TikTok or anything, I'm like, you can't hurt my feelings. You are literally wasting your time. Find anyone else. Period.
Excuse in the Twitch chat says this merch, you think it already exists? Listen, I believe it when I see it, and if you try and link it to me, I'm not gonna click it so I don't see it. As far as I'm concerned, this is an original idea.
Collab merch.
Yeah,
let's do collab merch.
This is So we got off on this here, which is great. But then now let's talk about the singles that you did.
Sure.
So where did these 8 singles come from, and how do they fit into your kind of strategy in 2020 last year, and maybe going forward as well?
I really only started producing in 2019, which means that last year, you really heard the very first things I'd ever really made, the first songs I'd finished as an indie, the first whatever, everything. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to sound like. And I spent a long time kind of agonizing over what genre should I be? What's my brand? Whatever. And part of the confusion was that I played in a cover band for 4 years and I performed almost every single week. And in that cover band, we covered everything from country to rap to hip hop to pop to 80s music, every genre you can think of, over 350 songs. And so at the end of that, I got so good at imitating other people's voices and styles that I was my own style became very genre fluid is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
And then, so I started releasing these different songs and kind of different genres and feeling things out. And what I realized at the end of the year is that like I don't really want to pick. I don't want to. I don't want to brand myself. I don't want to put myself in like, okay, I'm going to be indie pop and try to get on indie playlists,
Mhm.
or I'm going to be rap and try to get on. I was like, fuck it. Like I'm releasing
Yeah.
this year I have a pop it's like I want to say like singer-songwriter folk pop album dropping right away. But then right after that, I'm
Mm.
dropping like a hip hop trap album.
Mhm.
And I feel like last year through experimenting, I realized
I heard
that
some of your hip hop chops, and even in the hook on Alice, you've got some fast delivery that I like.
thank you.
Hmm.
Um, I realized that part of the reason people like me is because I am dynamic and I do surprise them. And I also realized that like one of my heroes in music is Anderson .Paak. I absolutely
Yeah.
look up to him
Oh,
and
nice.
admire him
Hmm.
as an artist. And he says like one thing that he really cares about is no matter who he's working with, no matter who the producer is, no matter what the beat is, he wants to be able to sound like him. And that's his
Hmm.
definition of like him being a good artist. And I fuck with that. Like I want to be able to sing whatever I want, but when you hear it, you're like, that's Tianda. Like that's her voice, that's her
Hmm.
style. And so last year the rate of output and putting out 8 singles, that was random. That was me just literally throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, because you have to experiment in order to figure things out.
Right.
And now I'm going into this year with an actual plan. I'm going to be dropping at least 4 EPs this year that are almost finished.
Nice.
And who knows how many singles. Like
Yeah.
honestly, every opportunity that comes my way, if I can take it, I'm gonna take it and put music out and just
Yep.
keep building.
Awesome. And I see we have Paul Gears, people excited about Anderson .Paak. What this is always a tough one when people ask me this. What are some, out of maybe your output since coming back to music this past year, what's a favorite track or two that you've done, and people like, especially the artists themselves, like their own songs sometimes for different reasons. I have songs that I really, really like the concept and like the lyrics that I was trying to put into them, and that's why a song is a favorite to me. Well, I know that it's not one of my most played, that maybe isn't the catchiest, but I appreciate those for what they are as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are some? Also, you talk about your style. Out of the stuff that's on your Spotify right now, what would maybe you give us a couple you would recommend if someone was gonna go listen to Tianda for the first time?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, I think My God is my favorite song that I've released so far. And the reason that I like it so much is because when I was 15 and my major label said that my songs were too deep, that was actually one of the songs that they were like, this isn't it. People
Yeah.
won't get this. And when I released it, like I want to say 80% of the lyrics that I wrote when I was 15 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
I just kept it intact, and people loved it. And um, so that's my favorite by far, because the message is about like my experience with clinically diagnosed OCD
Mm-hmm.
and what struggling with that was like through the lens of a 15-year-old girl who didn't really understand it that well. So it's just like it hits home because mental health is something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to go listen to me and get a feel for like what I'm about, I think like Alice is a really good representation of my personality, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a funny song. Like I just wrote that
Yeah,
shit
I think
about
so
getting
too.
high in Miami and eating guac
Yeah.
and chips, because I like had the best guac and chips I've ever had, and it was just like in my head and I couldn't get it. And the instrumental is very guitar driven. I love
Mm-hmm.
guitar. It's my favorite instrument. It's my go-to. So I think that one's a pretty good representation of like who I am as a person. But Overthink is also like a close second, because it has that like hip hop kind of vibe, and I really
Mm-hmm.
want to move in that direction this year. And
Awesome.
um, someone told me like 2 years ago, like they literally said female rappers mostly sound stupid, and I should have been like, you're wrong, but
Nice.
I wasn't as
Yeah.
confident at the time, so I was like, oh, like okay, I guess I won't
Mm-hmm.
pursue this. And then now I've realized like that's moronic. It's a moronic thing to say, and I'm gonna do whatever I want. So you can expect a lot more of like hip hop influence in the future
Oh,
for
I can't
me.
wait. You ever listen to K Flay? I
Yeah,
don't know
she's
if
a
you.
boss.
Yeah, she really is, and she started. Hey, Domingo, Kai, welcome. We got some more people come into the chat, and and yeah, K Flay. For those of you who don't know, I believe she was a local in the Northwest, maybe even Seattle as well. I know she works with a lot of artists there. But she started out, or a lot of her earlier stuff actually is hip hop, and she's done a lot of verses and stuff. But then I've loved as well. She going a little bit the opposite. Is she has some really great like grungy tracks the last couple of years, and rock stuff that are fantastic and really catchy. And there's some stuff of yours that that came to mind thinking about it. So
what, like, there's 7 billion people in the world. So like, I know that in the past there used to be this perception that you need to pick a genre, you need to brand yourself, and you need to stick to it. But the way I see it now is like, if there's 7 billion people in the world and 1 million of them like country and 1 million of them like rap and whatever, and I like all those genres, why wouldn't I want to make music for everybody? Like, there are people on my Instagram, some of them follow me because they like my pop music, but some of them hate my pop music and they like my hip hop stuff. And I'm like, I still fuck with that. That's still awesome. If you even like one song I've released, that's awesome. And like, if you're capable of writing in multiple genres and you enjoy it and it's what you want to do, like, not only is it more fun that way, but you're also really expanding the possibility that something you write will catch. So like, just like my actual slogan that I've been holding with me for the past few years is just follow your art. Don't worry about what it's supposed to be or what you think. It just follow it. If you're writing a song and it's going in this direction, go all the way in that direction, and don't be afraid of the rules or like the lines you draw around yourself. I don't know. It's all nonsense, Petravita. It's all of the rules are fake.
The rules. It's all a construct.
It's all a construct.
You know, do you remember when you, like, maybe around, I'm gonna project a bit of myself here. We'll see how relatable this is. Do you remember when you're like maybe you're a teenager, maybe you're a young adult, or whenever, you know, people started asking you what kind of music you like, and you started giving the answer like everything, or like I listened to a little bit of everything. And for me,
everything but country.
That too. I remember when I first like started like branching out, you know, I wasn't only buying like one type of thing in middle school or whatever like that and listening. I remember thinking like, wow, I am so unique. Colt, I can appreciate so many different genres. And then you realize very soon everything becomes everyone's answer, and people's music tastes are diverse, and even people who have a really favorite genre, they listen to all kinds of things. It's like I've talked about on stream a lot. I listen to plenty of different things, but a lot of times I get like the best vibes from listening to like disco tracks. I'll listen to doo-wop from like the 50s, and so like, I mean, that's like everyone. And what you said, well, you know, why wouldn't I want to make music for everyone, or if some people like this and this and this, that actually, to me, in this where we are so much more exposed and connected, and we get to see, in some cases anyways, more real sides of people, it's a realization that I've made that as much as I might say everything, that's also most people appreciate a diverse body of music. And there's no, as you say, there's no rule that one individual music artist can't provide or feed into those different tastes. You don't have to have one person that you only go to when you're in a rap mood, or, you know, I think it's cool to have people who can write for vastly different sounds that could even be put in different genres. So I think that's great.
As long as you're being authentic, right? If you start faking it to try to like reach more of the market, people will sniff that out immediately. But if you just genuinely love what you're writing and it happens to fall, like, look at Lil Nas X. That should have never been a thing. You know, like in traditional world, that rap country would have never popped off. But nowadays it's like, if anyone has proven the rules are fake, it's Lil Nas X, and like, God bless him. He's the best. I love him for it, for paving the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked his EP he did right after that song as well. I think it was called 7 or something like that.
Did he do like all different genres on it or something?
He didn't exactly, but it's definitely more diverse. Like there's only one other track on it that I would say, which Rodeo, that like...
that's an awesome name.
Yeah, that's a really good song. You should listen to that. I want to say that's the one with... I don't know, Nicki Minaj or someone has a verse on it. But that's, I think, the only one on there that's really like that same kind of country rap blend, and the other ones change a bit. He's got some very like some pop rock stuff that's pretty cool as well. So kind of exactly what we're talking about here.
You know, we're like
it's Cardi
40
B.
minutes
Sorry.
in,
Yeah.
and I just learned how to open the chat.
Oh, fantastic!
I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah, you're learning.
So
Twitch.
now I can see what people are saying.
Had to scroll up and see. Oh, interesting. But you have also, time to clear the chat. You also have a song coming up as well, and I used the photo from the cover art of that for the preview image today when I posted and saying that we were going to do this in an hour. Tell us about the new song Touch, when we can hear it, and what we can expect. Give the people what they want, or at least tell them what they're going to get.
I'm so excited. I feel like so Touch was part of my quarantine EP. I started writing an EP last year. As soon as we went into lockdown for the first time, I was like, okay, I have no money because I had recently lost my life savings. All of my shows got canceled, and I had basically like no way of making an album. So I was like, well, I guess I have to learn. If it's not too painful,
can you not gloss over that?
Yeah.
You say, I lost my life savings. Hold up.
It's not too painful. Essentially what happened was I saved up $8,000 to make an album. And I was like, I'm going to go to the studio. I'm going to hire the producers I want. I'm going to make an album. And I was so excited. And then when I quit music for that period of 3 years and decided to settle down and be a normal person, I bought a condo. And what ended up happening was, as soon as I saved the $8,000, the roof on my condo needed to be replaced, and my bathtub also broke. And because of the low reserve fund at the condo, they did a special assessment. So typically the condo would be responsible for the roof, but because of the special assessment, I had to pay it out of pocket. So all $8,000 got burned up in a span of like a week. And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, well, like either I'm going to learn how to make an album myself, or I'm not going to release an album. So I was like, well, I'm locked down. Like I may as well figure it out. And so I started producing. I started watching YouTube tutorials. It was kind of my first time doing it without anyone else in the room. And I cried so much because it's so frustrating trying to just figure it out. Like, you know, because you probably taught yourself as well. It was just hard. And at the same time, I was really isolated. I was cut off from all my friends. My family lives, 12 hours away. I didn't get to go to work and see anybody. I was just alone, and I was alone for months. And I decided I want to capture this moment in time and just remember what it was like to be in isolation and be with myself and get to know myself. And what came out of that was a 5-song record that was kind of painful to create. There's a lot of moments in this record where it's just me reflecting on my life and my own opportunities and who I am as a person. And Touch is one of those songs where, the main line in the song is, I break everything I touch. And what I was really talking about was my experience in relationships where my relationships kept ending. And at first I thought it was other people's fault. And then I started to realize, like, oh, it might be me. I have my own opportunities I need to work through as a person. And so I started looking inward and journaling every day and just writing about like what I was going through and learning. And then those emotions and experiences sort of flowed into the record. And Touch is really just a song about me reflecting on a previous relationship and how I had the best intentions, but unfortunately I hurt that person. And when I started talking about it on TikTok, how I kind of explained it was, I've written a lot of songs about the people who have hurt me in the past, but I haven't really written the song yet for the people that I've hurt. And so this is my way of sort of saying, like, I'm sorry for the people that I've hurt as well.
I see. And when is that out? What day?
January 22nd. It's coming out.
Any special plans for release?
Yeah. I'm sort of like debating doing one of those like Zoom parties because I'm really like, I've been playing so many live streams to like 70, 80 people, but I want to see their faces.
Do a Twitch
stream.
So
I might. I might. I would really like to do it in a format where I can actually see people responding to how I'm
Mm-hmm.
performing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to be dropping my very first ever merch when I drop the song. It won't come out on the day of the song, but it will come out shortly after.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that too because a lot of people don't know that I'm also a visual artist, and I
Mm-hmm.
started painting and drawing long before I started music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't released any merch yet ever because I keep saying like when I release it, I want to make sure that it's 100% me through and through. I don't want to just like throw something out there to try to make money, you know? And so
Right.
I really took my time like hand drawing everything, hand designing everything, picking the perfect like words and things to write on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll definitely be launching that as well to just sort of like spread the message and hopefully, I don't know, just like I learned a lot making this song and this record, and hopefully other people can learn something too from listening to it. So I'm just excited to get it out in the world.
Awesome. You have any super secret preview you wanna play? I'm
I would
putting you
love
on the
to, but
spot.
it's on my broken laptop, and I can't even
A
open it right
likely
now.
story. Smash the screen on the laptop.
Oh, I'm an embarrassment. I wish you could have seen it happen because it was like the stupidest. I literally just dropped my phone on my MacBook screen and like shattered it, and it was like it fell like an inch, dude. Like it should not have happened this way, but yeah, it's embarrassing. I can post a clip on like my socials though. It's about time that I give people a preview. So check back like today
Do
and I'll
it.
have something up.
Do it. I put earlier, it's at Tianda Land. Maybe Scoos can put it in the chat on all socials as far as I know. We did have a question for you from chat from Scoos. He says, any plans to put out a physical media release on the EP? I know that's not easy for indie artists.
Are they talking about like physical copies of the CD?
I'm guessing, yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Um,
Cool.
the thing is, I know that like a lot of people just stream nowadays, but um,
Vinyl. This
it,
guy wants the Rolls
yeah,
Royce of.
I'm gonna do vinyl. I've had people even ask me for cassettes, and
Yeah.
like what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna print CDs, cassettes, and vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put the CDs up on my Bandcamp as like pay what you want. So
Mm-hmm.
if people want to pay a penny, they can pay a penny, and if people want to pay more than that, they can,
Mm-hmm.
because my fans really they're angels. Like I don't have a ton of them yet, but like they're like, how can I support you?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way? And they literally want to buy it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put them up for sale by donation, and then I'll put up like the vinyls and stuff, obviously at a sale price because vinyl is a bit more expensive.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited then. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm excited and nervous because it's the first, like I produced this album myself, and so like every other time I've released something I'm like, well, if it fails, like it wasn't just me, but this time I'm like, this is 100% me through and through. So like whether this does really well or it doesn't, I'm going to learn a lot from it and grow a lot from it. So I'm really looking forward to just seeing like what the response is like and what I can take away from this release.
Awesome. Let's, before we end things here, Tianda Hype Train, you know it. Let's go ahead and do a little lightning round here, a little word association. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Maybe, okay.
So I know it's like a second or two delayed on the stream, but I'll also say it out loud, and you can wait if you want for it to come up on the stream and see it. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab random objects from my desk. And you can let me know what comes to mind. We're just gonna see where your head is at here, okay?
Like random words when you hold up the object?
Yeah, you let me know what comes to mind. It could be a memory, a story, or just the first word that pops into your mind when you see it, okay? This is where.
Let's go.
And then after for you guys who don't know, after we are done with the interview, I'm going to switch the stream over to freestyling. We'll put on some beats, and you guys can throw words at me, and we'll do that. So Tianda, if you want a chance to get back at me, you're welcome to throw stuff in there if you want for a bit.
Amazing.
All right, here we go. So first up is Kirkland Signature Multi-Purpose Eyeglass Cleaner.
This eyeglass cleaner. Wow. Okay, really funny story. I used to work in Staples selling computers. I was 17 years old and they hired me as a computer salesman, but I had no experience with computers. I was actually an idiot And all I would do is read shit off the sales tag and like say those were the specs and hope that nobody knew better and didn't ask questions. And I noticed that people weren't taking me seriously, so I went and bought a bunch of fake glasses to try to look smarter, and it actually worked. It actually worked.
Sales shot up 27% when the glasses were acquired.
People started treating me like I knew what I was talking about because I looked smarter. It was
You're like,
so
this is
stupid.
someone who's ruined their eyesight sitting in front of a computer for a long time. She knows what's going on.
I was just like, have you heard of hypercore multi-threading? Like literally reading off the sticker.
Let's go to the hyper threading. I actually used one of these once. A friend of mine had a problem with his ether core. I hacked right through that. Anyways, all right, next thing up for you. We have a blister pack of from medicine or medication.
Blister pack. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think like the only like horrible blister experience I had was like when I broke my ankle when I was like I want to say 18. I was playing soccer with my family and my brother he tried to roundhouse kick the ball, but he actually roundhouse kicked my ankle.
Oh.
And I thought it was sprained for like 2 weeks. I didn't think it was broken, so I just kept walking on it, but I was like limping all funny, and eventually my foot ended up being like so ugly and blistered that my boss like, literally sent me home from work and was like, go to the doctor, at which point I realized it was broken. And it never actually did heal up properly because of all the scar tissue from walking on it for 2 weeks, but that's probably like the only funny blister story I have. I'm realizing now that all of my stories are just like me talking about how much of an idiot I am. I kind of regret it, but
I'll be honest, I default to self-deprecating mode quite often. All right, I got one more for you here. We'll do the one more. This is and this is authentic, by the way. This is an unopened phone bill. What does that do for you?
An unopened phone bill. Oh my goodness. I don't know.
This is so dumb. It's the first time I've done that. I just randomly decided to do this, by the way.
When you say the word phone,
Yeah.
I instantly feel like a tightness in my chest because I
Okay.
looked at my average daily phone time yesterday. Because I have a bunch of artists reaching out to me being like, how do you make so much content? How do you make so much content? And now I just send them my daily phone usage because I'm averaging like 8 to 9 hours a day on this freaking thing. So whenever you say the word phone, it's just like...
Okay, we've struck a chord.
Yeah, I just think of like anxiety, to be honest.
Well, thank you for indulging me. First of all, I just gotta shout out Fire Bars in the chat. I just copped some glasses so sales would raise a couple bands. Just told this grandpa to download more RAM. Whew. Killing it.
Bars.
Can I get some Fire Bars in the chat? Anyone who's a sub, feel free to drop those in. That's about what I got for you. And when I say what I got for you, I just mean what I came up with because I am not a prepared person. It was fun. Thank you so much. I feel like I learned a lot as well, which is great. Anything you want to leave people with can be music or non-related. Feel free. You've got the closing statement.
I mean, like, thanks for, if anyone watches this and makes it this far, thanks for listening to me talk for like an hour. If you found anything I said to be helpful, or if you have questions, I'm super present on social media, so feel free to reach out and hit me with your questions, and I love to help, so don't be shy. And just like, thank you for making it this far.
Yeah. Dope. All right. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the new song.
Of course.
Touch 22nd, yeah?
22nd, yeah, touch. Keep your eyes peeled.
Right on. And when I hang up, do you have like a pre-save link for it?
I do. Yeah, it's in the bio of all my socials.
Okay.
So feel free to check it out.
If you decide to make an account or you stick with us for a bit, no pressure as well. Go do what you got to do. But feel free at any point to drop that in the chat as well, so people in chat right now can. So you're welcome to paste it in.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon, and best of luck with everything coming up.
Thank you. Have fun freestyling.
Thanks. See ya.